Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new ESO video with me, Sherman. We are back on test again, doing a lot of damage tests, getting the differences between heavy armor and medium armor, and with human error and everything else included, and with the right exact amount of attributes split between the two, health and stamina, to give me the exact amount, so no matter what I do, my character stays within the same format. For this test, I went for this type of setup. So I'm just going to show you what I'm wearing for gear right now. I'm wearing 3 pieces of jewelry. I have 1 stamina recovery. The 2 other are weapon damage, as you can see. I'm wearing 5 pieces of two-fanged snake with a monster set of crogs. I'm using both master daggers on both bars, both one sharpened, one precise, and I am using a sharpened bow. Now, because of this this type of damage test, I went with 2 different types of builds. I went with a burst build and I went for a dot build. Now, in this test, I came up with 2 variations. From the burst build, I didn't do as much damage. In fact, I did about 4,000 less than what I did for the dot. But because of the differences in the builds, if you have a good rotation, and you would need a really good rotation. I am not very good with rotation, so that's why there is human error here, and it is so great in some areas. So the other gear set I was running was a heavy set, and the heavy set was the Berserking Warrior set. And if you compare the 2 sets, the difference is that one gives me more critical, and the other one gives me more penetration. So it's kind of an offset, but you're going to see there's not much variation when it comes to damage in certain things. So let me reset my skills to what I originally had them, because I want to show you what I was running for my burst build. And I ran this way because it was the most optimal way I could run it. And I need this one here. And I was running this. So I did not change my champion points. I did not have this there either. This was over. And I was running a thing that increases my weapon damage. And so this is how I had it set up the first time, with medium armor, without running dots. So as you guys can see, I am running ambush, I'm running bloodthirst, I'm running power extraction, killer's blade, evil hunter, flawless dawnbreaker. On the back bar, I'm running reaper's mark, I'm running focused aim, I'm running Innis hail, relentless focus, and then toxic barrage. Now, I didn't use toxic barrage in any of these things because I wanted to keep the damage rotation the same no matter what I did. So the 2 gear sets I was running, like I said, with the 2, I had them both set at 20k health, and both of them set at about 32,000 or a little bit above in stamina. And the weapon damage, as you can see with the bow, is 2295, 13 here. When I switch, it's 2843. I have a 79% crit, and my you can see it doesn't change by a huge margin here. And now I will show you what it's like when I run the heavy armor. I will show you numbers here in a second so you guys can see how different it is. Like, I shouldn't even say how different it is, but how very little it is. So let me see here. I need to set this at 28. And the rest goes into stamina. Or wait, I'm in heavy armor. I don't want 28. I need 20, and then the rest goes into stamina. That's not right. Is that right? We'll see. Yes, it is. So this is the way I have it set up in heavy armor. And you can see here that I do have a 32k stamina with a 21k or 20k health. The things that change is my weapon damage on my dual wield and on my bow. Now, this is how the damage looks. So this right here is in medium armor with the burst build. I did 13,000. This is totally killing the skeleton in 3 minutes and 52 seconds. As you can see, I made human error here. And this is 11,710. So I had a lot more human error here, just by a marginal degree. And it gave me greater results with the medium armor, of course. But as you can see, that's a 2,000 point difference with a non-perfect rotation. Now, when it came to the dot build, this is the heavy armor dot build, 15,276. This is the medium armor dot build, which was 17,000. Another just 2,000 point difference. And this is not running the perfect rotation. In fact, I will show you the rotation I was running just so you guys can see, because I wanted to keep the rotation at a similar variable. Not the perfect rotation, just a good rotation, so I can get a good damage amount. So I'm going to show you with the medium armor. I want to make sure I got everything set up right. Alright, so I need to start here. First I'm going to buff. I'm going to do this. And I'm just going to show you the rotation. So snipe, barrage, that, this, and then 2 heavy attacks. And that was the build. That's the rotation. Then I'd switch bars and I'd reapply everything, go through it. Now in the rotation I would also do 5 in the second part. So I'll do this again. Let me reset the skeleton. We'll do this again. So I start with Reapers. I go with lethal aim. Do this. Switch bars. Go with this. Rapid strikes. This. Heavy attack. Switch bars. Reapply. Now I know I'm running out of enchantments on this side, but that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And fire that off. Switch bars. Do this again. And this is the reason I did this, was because I could get a more definitive number on it and everything. And I did this with heavy and medium with that rotation. Now on this other rotation that I'm going to switch to real quick so you guys can see it, I went with something a little different. And the reason why was because I wanted to get a more definitive number here in how everything worked. So as you can see, the rotation here changed, and then back here it changes as well, because I went with the Fighters Guild and I went with this. So I'm giving up that extra penetration, and I'm going for more dots and things like that, so I can get more damage. And the rotation changed because I'm using more skills. I went for 3 heavy attacks in there. Now, if you're good with rotations, you can do a lot better job than I can. But here's the rotation how I started. I started with my buff. I applied the poison trap. I went like this. I went like this. I switched. Apply. 1, 2, 3. Switch. Apply. And then I did this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fire. Switch. 1. And I have to do 3 attacks with this, because if I don't get enough resources. Now, in between all this, I would also be throwing off Dawnbreakers. So, just so you guys know, I would be throwing off Dawnbreaker in there to get more damage out of my character. And if I show you guys what I'm getting right now for DPS, 11 seconds, I got 12,000, I got 10,000. And it's because this skeleton's really wonky when it comes to DPS and how it records. Versus when I got 9,000. But as you can see, this was 44 seconds, 27:11. This is actual times on kills. This is the actual damage. And like I said, I'm not using the perfect rotation. I wanted a controlled rotation, so that way I could get a clearer idea of how much DPS difference there was between medium and heavy. Now, because of this, you can see that there is a 2,000 point difference. When it comes to the actual damage, there's only 500 point difference in most of the things. Heavy attacks in medium and heavy attacks in light, or medium and heavy, are 5,000 point difference. This goes with magic and stamina DPS builds. So if you're in a Magicka build, you're going to get the same numbers if you set up a certain like flat rotation that you can manage really easy, and you do the test and you kill the skeleton. You're going to get about the same variation, about a 2,000 point difference. Now, I have done this test several times, and I keep coming to the same conclusion, and that is that what I've been told countless times by other people, that heavy armor is a non-usable thing for PvE, has been basically blown out the door, because it is clearly viable. You're just giving up some damage for greater survivability. Now, I went with this kind of a setup because with the 2032 setup, because it's a controlled test. This is a completely controlled test. I need to have the closest I can get in number variables, so I'm not making too many mistakes in differences and things like that. But as you can see, because I get extra penetration on the medium armor side and I get extra critical on the medium armor side, I do get more damage. But on the heavy side, I'm not getting as much penetration, I'm not getting as much of this and that, and I'm leaving my champion points the same, so this is what it looks like. On the champion side, I have 33 in here, giving me 19.34%. 55 into here, giving me 19.93%. So I get close to 20% on both of these. I have 23 in here, giving me 10%. 56 into here, giving me 20%. And I have 43 in here, giving me 10%. I wanted to do a test in a perfectly controlled way. Now, I've taken this build here out in the open world and tested it against enemies in the open world, and I'm getting about the same numbers. Now, I record everything I do with my computer. I play it back, write down the numbers, calculate how much total damage I did in the amount of time it took me in the video, and then I take that total number, I divide it by how much time it took me, and usually I come up with about the same numbers as what I am right now. But in some cases, it depends on human error. Human error plays a lot in this game. So if your rotation is not 100%, you will have too much human error to count for damage. So here's why I used a controlled rotation instead of a meta rotation. It's a lot easier to control. It's a lot easier to get definitive numbers, and it shows actual proof that there is not a huge, like how much of a difference there is. It will actually show that, especially when you're doing a controlled rotation, a controlled build, controlled everything. You get more precise numbers this way. And so that's the main reason why I was doing this, was so I could get more precise numbers. I wasn't getting a lot of different numbers. And it worked out really well. It gave me exactly what I wanted to see. And everything else. Now, I did try a few other options in this build. Instead of putting Reaper's Mark here in the open world, I dropped the Reaper's Mark and I went with Unstoppable, so I could get some more resistances in both medium and heavy armor. I didn't try it in here because there's no point in doing that. I just not cast Reaper's Mark, and I'd get the same results. And there's still only a 2,000 point difference. The reason why a lot of people don't like heavy armor being used in content is because you don't get as much out of it. You don't get, as good of things out of it as you do for other things. So I can see why a lot of people like the medium armor versus heavy armor setup. It works, medium armor does increase your damage and stuff like that, but like I said, I wanted the perfectly controlled DPS. So as you can see, I'm using the same weapons, I'm using the same bow, I'm using the same benefits here, and I just ran out. I mean, literally, this just ran out when I started this video. Like right after I started it, I ran out of the charges, which kind of sucks, but everything else is been the same. So like if you look here, this should be medium, this is light, this is heavy, all this is, and the same thing goes with the other set. So I'm using this more controlled test to determine the differences. Now, if I had the same gear, if I was running, like, say, 5 pieces of hunting heavy, 5 pieces of medium huntings, I could get more of a direct thing. But since I'm using 2 completely different sets, it's going to give me different numbers. So that's one of the things that I wanted to show you guys. Now I want to go into talking about why I chose to do this test. And that's because everyone tells me you can't DPS in heavy armor. You can only DPS in medium armor, which is a lie. It is 100% a lie. In fact, the point variation difference per hit does not calculate to what I'm seeing here. In fact, I almost gotta say that if I could keep my rotations better, and I didn't have to do the 3 heavy attacks in heavy armor, I could actually do 2 heavy attacks. I'd probably be getting around the same DPS. In fact, it'd be a lot closer. It'd probably be only 1,000 point difference. The fact that the first attempt was 13,000 to 13,037 to 11,010 or 11,710 tells me that right there is actually a 1,200 point gap, not what I was saying. And then the other one was a 15,276 by 17,258, which puts them almost exactly at 2,000 points difference between dot and burst. So, like, the dot damage was 2,000 point difference. On burst, it was more or less a 1,500 point difference, or a 1,200 point difference. So, or 1,300, I mean, whatever you want to say, it's 1,300, and then the other one was 2,000. And then to compare the two, 15,000 to 13,000 in heavy versus medium dot damage, or 17,000 to 13,000, you're still looking at a 4,000 point difference in a dot build versus a burst build. So you can play this game really however you want. If I'm averaging right now on this kind of setup 15k DPS, a lot of people say, oh, well, that's not enough DPS to clear content. Guys, I clear content all the time with worse DPS than this. Come on, I play a tank most of the time. The point is that you can get by with this kind of DPS in normal and vet dungeons, no problem. With this kind of DPS setup. With burst or poison, whatever you want to do, dot damage or whatever, you can do that. The other misconception a lot of people throw out there is that you can't DPS in heavy armor. You can DPS in heavy armor, you just have to build it. And if you build it right, you can get a lot of good DPS out of your character. So, yes, it is viable to DPS in heavy armor, just like it's viable to do magic at DPS in heavy armor. Both are viable. Now, are they suggested for in-game meta? Probably not, because the meta doesn't want you to play that way. The meta doesn't like it when people play outside of the meta because it shows that their information is only true by a marginal, and I am going to say it, marginal degree. So if you took heavy armor, the perfect rotation, and compared it to DPS in medium armor, and you are using exact same gear sets no matter what. So 3 pieces agility, 5-piece huntings in medium, 5-piece huntings in heavy, and compared them side by side with the same monster set, I'm guessing you would probably get pretty close to the same results, if not closer than what I got. And that's because you're using more control. Now your character is more on par with this one set. You're using them both on both things. You're getting the same amount of penetration, the same amount of this and that. The damage ratio is going to be closer together because it's not being so spread apart where it is like in here, where I don't get that option to test that. Now, I would love to test that, but unfortunately, like I said, I'm on test server, and we still have the European stuff on here. So only the European players can really test that theory to see if I'm right or wrong. But I just showed you guys, like, first-hand proof, like, right here on your screens. Like, how much of a difference there was. 13,000 for medium, heavy, 11,710, and that's burst. This is dot. 5,276 by 17,258. And technically, it's 2,020 points difference here. But also you have to look at this. This was 3 minutes and 17 seconds. So I'm actually over 20 seconds more on my rotation on the heavy armor than I am on the medium armor. So if I could bring that rotation down to a greater speed, I would probably be closer on par with this. So if I were to go over here and do my dot build or my burst build, let's say without the 3 heavy attacks here, I'd probably get more DPS here. And if I were to give up this right here and change it to just leave it the 2 heavy attacks, I'd probably be getting closer to the same damage, because even here you can see it's a greater difference in time. Because on this, I did 3 heavy attacks. Every time I did a heavy armor, I did 3 heavy attacks because I thought I would need greater returns. So I can go ahead and kill this skeleton if I want to and get that number, to go off. But I'm not going to, because I already know that if I did it, I would be closer to being on par with medium armor with my rotation. And this is the other thing. Heavy attacks with heavy armor. So we're going to go ahead and just burn off, not that, wrong one. We're going to go grab a skill that's going to help us burn off some stamina. Just so you guys can see, we'll go with the armor ability. Heavy armor, unstoppable. We'll burn off a lot of stamina here. So, oops, 10k. Watch how much I'm getting back per heavy attack. So that's 2k per heavy attack with that, with heavy armor. Now let's go in here and let's do the medium armor. Change, we'll switch this up and change it out, and I'll show you guys this as well with that. So we're going to reset everything. I do have these numbers written down so I can keep track of it easier. So there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and reset our attributes here, and with medium armor we need 28, and then the rest in here. And there we go, we're back to the 20. We're not exact on the attributes either, but the tooltip difference is nothing. So let's go over here. We're going to do the same, kind of thing with the heavy attacks. We're going to burn off a lot of resources. And I want you to watch this, because this is really important. So we're going to take this down to about 10k, and then we're going to switch bars, start heavy attacking. Now watch how much I'm getting back. I'm getting about almost 2k back as well, even with this, and that's because of the way resource recovery works. See, resource recovery is based off of this number. Anytime you do a heavy attack, you get this number plus the percentage extra. So as you can see here, I have 1,051 resource recovery. So whenever I do a heavy attack, I'm getting 1,051 plus 30%. Actually 40% for my heavy attacks. So 40% more because of my champion points. 40% of this, which isn't quite 50%, would be about 400 and something extra stamina. Close to 2,000. Now, with heavy armor, which I'll have to go grab me another scroll, so just give me a sec. I'm actually going to just grab 10 of these, because I am going to be testing this some more. And we will go in here, and we will reset this again. So we'll go this, Krog's mask, and then we got to go all the way down here and grab the boots. And now we're in the heavy armor. As you can see, 5 pieces are showing up. We need to reset our stats. Here we go. Now we're not, like I said, we're not quite there with that. So let's go ahead and burn through this again. Now just watch. 17 to 19, 23, 22 to 26. We're getting about the same amount back. So this is why. Because when you do a heavy attack, like I said, here look, I have 942. You add 60% to that. That means I'm getting over half that back. So I'm getting this 942 plus 500 and some, or 600 almost, extra stamina back. So I'm getting that 900, so I'm getting roughly about 1,400, which is about what I was getting with the medium armor. So I'm getting about the same either way. I'm getting about 1,500 back every heavy attack. The reason it's showing like more is because I'm also gaining the tick. So I'm getting the tick of this plus that 1,500. So I'm actually getting 2k. That's where the 2,000 is coming from. Is because I get the tick plus that plus that. That's why it looks so big. So when you do a heavy attack, that's how your resources work. Your return works. Resource recovery, though, is this right here. So as you can see, I have a 169 stamina recovery. Your max stamina gives you a certain amount of stamina recovery. You add this to it and it grows. Now if I were to buff myself up, now look what I'm getting. Now I'm getting 1,010 stamina recovery. So that means I'm going to get over 2,400 stamina recovery back. So that means every time I do a heavy attack, I'm getting 2,400 every 2 seconds. If I throw a heavy attack in every other attack, I'm going to get more back. That's why I changed my rotation. So I know that if I switched my rotation from 3 heavy attacks on the heavy armor to 2 heavy attacks Instead, I would get the same amount of resources back as I would in medium. That would put my damage closer to being on par because I'm not giving up that gap of damage. So when I do my rotation here, instead of doing 3, I do 2, go, and I just reapply everything. One, 2. And as you can see, I'm already burning through a lot of my resources. So I do need to throw in other things in there. And remember, like I said, I usually throw this in so I can get that off. That's why it shows up so much differently. And it also counts for critical error too, because your crits aren't going to hit every time, even in medium armor. So you have critical error, you have human error, you have everything that you have to account for. And in a dungeon environment, it is a lot easier to have human error, because remember, human error isn't just that. It's also dodge rolling. It's also blocking. That is part of the human error, because you have to mitigate damage as long and to continue to do damage. Now with medium armor, you have to do this more often and this more often. In heavy armor, you don't have to do this as much. You just have to do this to get out of the big red circles. So I have tested this, like I said, in open world against world bosses, and also inside of, public dungeons and things like that. I can't test it in a trial right now because I can't talk about the trial stuff, and I can't test it in a dungeon because it's really hard to get a group for dungeon play on the test server. And as you guys saw with my resources just now, it wouldn't be too hard to manage your resources in heavy armor if you're doing the game, playing the game as normal. Now in normal play, you're not going to be doing this perfect of a rotation. You're not going to be getting these more controlled, precise actions, so the damage is going to be different. So in order to get the true on this, we need to go out here, and we actually just need to go out here, and we're going to teleport up here to this place. And I'm going to show you guys this, because I'm going to go out here and fight some giants and stuff. I'm going to use the same setup that I'm running right now in heavy armor. I'm going to fight these giants, kill them. I'm going to time it. And then once I kill them, I'm going to tell you how much time it took me to kill them. And my video, what you guys are seeing on the video recording side, you guys can calculate and see if I'm wrong or right or whatever. I'm doing this doing this recording, right now. I'm not like voiceovering after. I'm actually talking while recording. So I'm going to go with my standard setup here on this build, which is Reaper's Mark. This is my burst build, and I need to change one other skill here. So I need to change the bow. I need to change the focused aim, because this will give me a little bit more damage. So we are going to start with this, Reaper's Mark, this, and then we're going to drop that down. Dead. Okay, that's heavy armor. Now let's switch to medium armor. Now the reason I showed you that, and that was with literally almost the perfect rotation on that enemy. So the reason I'm showing you on a giant how quickly this takes, and honestly that was about 2.5 seconds by my guesstimated time math, because I did count in my head 1,000, 2,000, that kind of thing, and just came up with a, like when I got to a certain thing, I just throw it in there. So let's go ahead and do this again. So medium armor, I need 28. And the rest in here. And like I said, I wanted a controlled build. I didn't want one that was offset, so I went with this. So let's go ahead and do this again. We're going to hit our buffs, debuff, snipe. Okay, that was 2.3 seconds roughly. So just a little bit quicker to kill him in medium armor. But the damage, if you guys want to see now, I'm going to show you guys the damage of a light and heavy attack difference with the 2 armor types. So we're going to do a light attack on this guy and then hit him with a heavy attack. So we're going to go in, start with light attack, no buffs. So light attack, we'll hit him a couple. There, 6k. So we got 6k damage on that. And we're going to let him come out of his delirium. Heavy attack, heavy attack. Just so you guys can see. So these are the heavy attacks I'm getting without any buffs in medium armor. So now we're going to switch gear. Again, we're going to reset everything. And I know this is taking a while to do, but I just want people to see there's not a huge difference between medium and heavy armor. So there we go. We're back in 5 pieces of heavy, 1 medium, 1 light. So this is a 5-1-1 setup, and you can see all my stats change here with this. So I'm going to go in here and adjust this. So 20 and 44. And there we go. We're back to our setup. Now we can retry this on another mob. We need to go find a single dog, and I know where there is one. It's right up over here. He's hiding next to the rock. You can barely see him. He looks like part of the rock. So let's go up here. We're going to light attack him. 5,488, 5,465, 5,551. And now let's do a heavy attack, and we're going to go find another one because that showed us almost 6k. Which we were doing with our heavy attacks and stuff with the medium armor already. So we're going to go over here and fight this singular wolf. I think it's only one. Yes, it is. So let's do this again. So 5,000 point crits and 6k there. So the difference is 500 points of damage per light and heavy attack with this setup. With the medium to heavy. Now, when it comes to abilities, it's the same thing. It's about a 5,000 or a 500 point damage difference. If I were to use Teleport Strike on this guy, I would hit him for about 10,700 and something with the heavy armor, which I'll show you. So I'll just do it without buffs. Well, 9,961. Here we go. We'll do it again. 6,000. We're getting no crits. There we go. 11,531. Now, if I was to do it in heavy armor or medium armor, there would be almost a 500 point difference. And that is these 2 sets. That's just with the sets I'm running. As you can see, it's only 2 sets that are setting the differences. One gives you more penetration, one gives you more critical. So the greater the critical I get, it seems the more damage I'm getting as well. So it is a difference, but it's also not changing. It doesn't change enough to make heavy armor play non-viable. And with heavy armor also comes greater resistances and easier management of certain things. You get greater heals, you get greater health benefits, you get resources on return, you get damage when you're hit, you get a lot of different things that you don't normally get with medium armor. Medium armor just gets a boost of damage from crit and from weapon damage, where this you have to actually take damage to build damage. And to build up your recoveries and everything. And then, of course, your heavy attacks give you resources back. So that's the difference between heavy and medium armor. The same goes between light and heavy armor. That's the differences. Now, I did make a hybrid Nightblade and tried it out. And it's funny because I'm only doing about 700 points difference in damage in medium armor. So as a hybrid Magicka stamina DPS, I'm doing about between the two, I'm doing about anywhere between 1,000 and 700 points in damage difference. And that's because of this. This is because of the tooltip, the way the tooltip calculates math, how it does it, and how the game calculates math. Now I showed you guys how the character looked and why, I showed you what the difference in heavy and medium on a test, and then I showed you here the difference between heavy and medium damage-wise, and then also showed you the light and heavy attack difference. The tooltip difference is a big thing, though. Look at my tooltip, 6,888, and that's in medium armor. Now I'm going to buff up, and I'm going to show you what it shows now. So there's my weapon damage, 3,028. It's 6,586. Now, remember that number, 6,586. In fact, I'm just going to write it down just so I remember. So 6,586. And then we're going to go and switch, again, gear to the medium armor, and we're going to do the same test. And you'll see why we get a 400 to 500 point difference. Alright, so I am in 5-1-1 again. As you can see, my character's stats don't change by a huge margin. So just these values. But like down here, they're not a huge difference. Remember what it was before? It was 6,000 something for the base and 6,536 for the buffed. There's the base, 6,372. Let's go see what it looks like buffed. I'm not going to make the same mistake I've been making all day. So there's the damage, there's our buff, there's the weapon damage now, 3306. You would think it would be a lot higher because my stamina and stuff, you know, it's pretty equal. But let's go ahead and take a look. 6,870. So difference between them two buffed. 5,000 or 6,536 versus 6,870. So that is literally barely 300 points difference. Barely over 300 points difference in damage. And that's the way the game calculates the stuff, is when you increase the damage of your weapon damage, or you increase the damage of your, you know, and even if I change my stamina, like I'll go ahead and do that, guys, so you guys can see. I'll set it to more of a meta thing. So here I am. I'm going to set it to more of a meta setup. Now you remember what the damage was? 6,870. So 6,870, and that was buffed. So we're gonna do it based off of buff. And heavy armor was 6,586. So here we go. We're gonna go set our attributes to more of a meta thing. That's perfect. 10. We'll just dump 54 points. Now look at my attributes now. Again, 35,000 stamina, 6,843. We're going to go over here. We're going to siphon this little bugger's health. Sorry, dude, but we need it. So we're going to do that. Now let's take a look. 3,306 weapon damage, 35,000 stamina. Now let's take a look at the tooltip. 7,155. That is a not even 300 point difference. Not even a 300 point difference. With 35,000 stamina. That's 3k more than what I had before. Now let's do that again with the heavy armor, and we're going to get the same results. And the reason why is because you don't gain enough from stamina, like stamina bonus and magic and stuff, towards your damage to make a huge difference. And this is why the game is so wonky, is because nobody knows the exact amounts of what they need for their attributes. They don't know the exact amounts what they need in their champion points. So let's go in here. We'll do this again. And I do apologize for the length of this video. Just so you guys know, I am wearing 511. So let's go ahead and do this. We don't even need that much. We only need like that. And now we're pretty much where we need to be for meta. And we are sitting at almost 35,000. Look at that, 35,000 almost in stamina. And I mean, you could hawk a loogie and get it. So we're gonna wait. We're gonna go find one of these creatures. I don't know if it'll work off a squirrel, but we'll try. Yes, it does. There's our weapon damage, 3,028. Stamina is 34,000. Let's go take a look at this. Tooltip reads 6,855. It was 6,586 before. Guys, not even 300 points difference. Not even. So you take that 300 plus the other 300, you know, from minimaxing to the 32 and all that kind of stuff, and you do that. That's 600 points more damage that you are getting over what my build is to a meta build, from a 2032 build to a meta build. Now that right there shows me that there is not enough damage difference. In fact, if I was to run the rotation with this and that, the damage difference between a medium and heavy armor would still be the same. It wouldn't change between these two sets. It would still be roughly about 1,200 points in the burst, and about 2,000 in the other one. And if I was running a better rotation, it would actually be less because of human error. Now, if I can macro a rotation, I could show you the perfect rotation and do this like 100 times and say, here you go. This is what you're getting with this type of build. This is what you're getting with this type of build. These are the perfect rotations. Da-da-da. And you can go, oh, well, that's cool. That's easy enough. You're done. So this right here is just showing that, and it does show it, and I hate to say it, but it does show that whoever said that you can't DPS in heavy armor was wrong, period. You can DPS in heavy armor. The difference is too small to make it a big deal. And the people who say that medium armor is the best to DPS, and yes, they're right, but the margin is so small, it's not a big deal. And this is a 5-1-1 setup. 5-1-1 heavy DPS, 5-1-1 medium DPS. And stamina build. So you're not getting that much of a difference. Now I can show you how much damage I'm going to hit with this. So you guys saw earlier I was hitting for 11k with this ability unbuffed. Unbuffed. So let's go ahead and we'll just teleport attack this dog down here. Just to... Because every enemy almost has the same resistance. So here we go. Really? So you're telling me I don't even do 600 points difference? Let's try this again. Okay, I'm doing like a few hundred points difference. Wow! That's such a big difference, guys. We can't play the game anymore. Everyone quit. My point about this is that everything I've been told about this game by a lot of people saying that I can't play a certain way has actually just came up as being 100% false. And everything that I've known about the game has been 100% truth. Now you can crunch the numbers all you want. You can sit there and do it in a controlled environment, and you can do it in a test environment, and you can do it in this environment, you can do it in this environment. But there is not enough difference between heavy armor and medium armor to make a huge gripe about the way you do damage, or the way that your resources return, or the fact that you burn more stamina with heavy armor than you do medium armor. Okay, I burn more stamina, but I'm getting the same amount back with my heavy attack. So that means I just have to watch my resources a little bit better with my heavy armor. And the fact that I'm wearing heavy armor, the more damage I take, the more weapon damage I concur. So there's a lot of different things in there that a lot of people don't take into account. And heavy armor is an amazing set of gear to wear even when DPSing. Just like medium armor is an amazing set to wear because you get the dodge roll capabilities, you get all this other stuff, which a lot of people also don't take into account because they're too worried about maximizing their DPS. They don't care about anything else. Now, the reason I got silent there for a minute is because I wanted you to stop and think about that. You're so concerned, a lot of people are so concerned about their DPS that they give up so much of everything else. Well, what did I give up if I went to medium armor? Well, I'm giving up greater survivability because my health pool I can manage a little bit easier in heavy armor. I can still have a 32k stamina and easily keep my weapon damage at a decent number and still have a good crit. And this is on a Nightblade. I have a 1400 or 14,000 spell resistance, and if I wanted greater resistance, because if I'm playing in a group, I really don't need Reaper's Mark, I can actually grab this, and now, boom, I have extra resistances. But even though I put it in the wrong place, you know. But my point is that you can get a lot out of your character now because you can do this. You can build for survivability. So what does this do for me? Well, over here on the heavy armor side, I get 20k spell and physical resistance on a Nightblade, and I'm not even using champion points to give me extra resistances. This is my resistances out the door with a buff. So I get greater survivability, I get good damage capability that allows me to stay right here during the fight. So I can actually do this during the fight. I don't have to move around or anything like that. So I'm just going to stand here and look at this. He's not going to hurt me that much. That one hurt. He's not hitting that hard. Go, you're dead, buddy. So he's not hitting all that hard. And if I were to switch to medium armor and do the same thing, the other funny part is he wouldn't be hitting me that hard either. He'd be hitting me for about 100 to 200 points more damage. So why is heavy armor so much better? It's just the fact that it gives you a little bit more survivability. And depending on what race you're playing, it could even give you more. Especially if you're going for a 20-32 setup. Because now, having that 20-32 on, say, Orc in heavy armor, you get 9% or 6% max health and 6% max stamina. Makes a difference. 6% max health does make a difference. Now you got to remember, I'm also running Undaunted, so I can minimax my character a lot easier because I do have the Undaunted passive. I do have other things on my character, and I know this is good for the meta. You know, this is great. You have 17k health, you know, that kind of thing. But just imagine if I had the 20k health. He wouldn't be hurting. He would be having to take away more health from me. And like I said, I'm doing this with medium and heavy armor. I'm able to maintain my build this way because of that. And that's how I can keep that 20k health and the 32k stamina easier in heavy armor with Undaunted. Because everything about this game is built around a specific number value. And nobody's really tried to figure out what the game's built around. I did this in every MMO I ever played. When I'd play content, I had this feeling that there was a certain value my character had to be at to become to be really viable. And even in the classic Elder Scrolls games, you can do this. And that's because it's built on a levelless world. Everything in the world there's no level to. It just has a certain amount of health and all that kind of stuff, and that's what this is. I mean, anytime you come here, this mob will always have 119k health. He will have the same resistances, and he will have the same damage capabilities he does now. If you're wearing the best gear you can have at any level, doesn't matter. It's going to be like fighting him like I am now. If you have the same setup I do, and you're in the best, you know, you're in the best gear for your level, it's gonna work out the same every single time. Because you're getting the same benefits I am. So if you are using gold weapons, this, and this, you would be getting the same, almost the same damage as me. But you got to remember, I'm using Maelstrom weapons, so I am getting a little bit more damage in there. And that's the thing that you have to look at. You have to look at what you're compensating with. And what kind of gear you're running and all that kind of stuff. A lot of this stuff in the game has its purpose. Every gear set has its purpose. Every monster set has its purpose. Everything has a purpose in this game. To give us diversity in the way we play. And how we put together our characters. The champion point system adds on that by amplifying our characters a little bit. You get more resources from health, you get more stamina resources, you get more magicka resources, but you also get increased survivability, increased resource management, and increased damage. Now, this isn't so much resource management anymore as it is more or less there. I mean, there's some good stuff in here that I like using, and the way I have it set up, it works really well for me. I have 56 points into Warlord, I have 43 in the Moon Count, 43 in the Tenacity, 56 in the Tumbling, and 12 into Shadow Ward. Now, with the medium armor, I do get 40% reduced cost in dodge rolling, which is really awesome because that allows me to have a greater reduced cost, and it doesn't cost me near as much to dodge roll in heavy armor. And I love playing heavy armor builds, and I have done this test with both dual wield and two-handed, just so you guys know. And either way you go, you get a little bit more damage out of two-handed than you do dual wield, which is kind of funny. And this is where it compensates between dual wield and two-handed. Dual wield gives you this amount of weapon damage. Now look at this. Now my crit's going to drop. But if I were to use a precise weapon instead of this sharpened weapon, this is the only thing that's going to change is how much damage I do based on that sharpened effect. But it's going to increase my crit back to pretty much where it was, which is about 70%. 76%. And this is in heavy armor. So it's going to be pretty close to what it was now. It's just going to be a little different. But my damage now goes up, because now I'm at 2477, and it doesn't go up by huge. It goes down by a little bit. So it's not a huge difference. It's how the damage works. Now, if you look at the tooltips here of the weapon damage of two-handed on, say, Wrecking Blow, 12,025 damage. Now, if I go equip my dual wield, and I look at the tooltip, 11,762. And that's because I don't have the two-handed equipped. I'm not getting the extra weapon damage that it offers, and I'm not getting the benefit of the two-handed. It's showing me the benefits of dual wield. So if I set this up, and I put Wrecking Blow in place of this, now I'm going to go test this against the giant, just to see what it's like, so you guys can see for yourselves. So we're going to buff up our resistances. And it's the fact that my heavy attacks and stuff do more damage this way. Like if I go attack something without, let my buffs and everything wear off. And I'll show you guys the difference between this weapon, light and heavy attacks, with this armor. So you guys remember what it was before? Light and heavy attacks? No? It was 5.45 damage from a light attack. So let's do a light attack. 4,000 to 7,000 for a light attack and crit. Now let's do this. 13k. You do a lot more damage with this weapon than you do with dual wield, because dual wield counts as 2. So if you're doing individual light attacks, remember, you're doing 6k. This does 7 to 9k heavy attacks. And medium armor, this thing does almost 10k heavy attacks, or light attacks, and the heavy attacks are actually more like 22, 24, because you're getting increased weapon damage. So just to prove my point, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. So this, I'm going to grab the two-fanged, and then this will, I'll finish out the video right after this, I promise you guys. I just kind of wanted to show people this real quick so they can see for themselves. So here we are again, and you saw the weapon damage is higher now. It's 2745. A little bit greater crit too. So we're going to go back over here. We're going to face the other giant on the other side. Just so you guys can see. So we're going to start with Snipe and cast our buff. There's a 27k crit right there. And there's that, and he's dead. So we're going to go down here. We're going to find another little wolfy dog thing and obliterate it, because that's what we do best. We just nuke stuff in this game. So I'm going to sprint right through here. I'm going to show you guys the light and heavy attacks with medium armor. So light attacks with medium armor, 8,000. 8,000. Oh, I can't even get a hit off on him because he died so quick. And we're going to go over here and do the heavy heavy attack. So we'll start with one light attack. 8,000. 8,000. A heavy attack, just base. Come on, get a crit. 16,000. So their damage, the damage between light and medium isn't a huge margin. Like, again, I'm saying it's not a huge margin. It's not big enough to say that it's not viable. In fact, it's really, really viable to play with a two-handed build versus, just as well it is to play with a medium armor build. You guys want to play this game, huh? This is what I love about it. I mean, look at this. I can just waylay those guys. It's like 9k hits. And people say that stamina builds don't have cleave. Stamina builds have cleave. You're just not using it. You're too focused on dots and not enough cleave. The cleave damage comes right here. I mean, and that's where the AoE damage comes from for two-handed. It's all about two-handed for stamina builds. The dual wield does have a lot of AoE, area of effect damage, don't get me wrong, and I want to show you guys. So dual wield has a little bit more area of effect. You have Deadly Cloak, you have Steel Tornado, and that's pretty much it. But if you look at two-handed, you have one cleave brawler. But your light and heavy attacks are also cleaves. Everything else is single target. Unless you go with reverse slash instead of executioner strike. So everything you do is increased damage to light and heavy attacks. And as you can see here, I hit 3 targets at 67% more damage. So two-handed is a good weapon. It's viable just as much as dual wield, and it does work in PvE as much as it does in PvP. And that is it, guys. That's what I wanted to show you in this video, was just how things worked and how much different things were depending on how you played. And there really isn't a huge margin of difference. If you're using, like, if you were using 5 pieces of Julianus, let's say in 3 willpower, a fire staff on both bars, and you tested it, like a fire staff on one bar, a lightning staff on the other, like the meta. If you were to test the meta build with heavy armor versus light armor, you wouldn't see a huge difference in damage, because there isn't enough room for difference. Oh, well, you're not getting as much penetration. Well, yeah, but that's only 8% damage, and 8% damage doesn't equate to nothing when the tooltip says this. And that's what it does. The tooltip says a certain amount, and it stays very close to this. 8% more damage of this. Increase that by 8%. Is it going to increase it to 8,000 damage? No, it's 8%. It's small. Well, I'm going to add 20% more weapon damage. Okay, now you're going to see a difference, because now it's 16% more damage. So that's 16% more damage. Of course you're going to see a bigger growth in damage. And that's where the difference lies here, is people look at only the minimax values. Now, I crunched the numbers just as much as Deltia has, or Gilliam, or Alcast and all them. And after crunching the numbers, you don't gain enough bonus from raising your stats too high as you do from keeping them in a decent range. And here's the other thing with keeping them in this range, the 20-32 range. You have easier ways to control your resources. Look at this. I have 1,051 stamina recovery like this. If I buff up, I go to like 1,300, and I get a good amount of coverage with my return. So I get more back when I do heavy attacks. The same thing goes with my light attack, or with just letting it tick up. It goes up really quick. And if I'm using things that are giving me increased recovery, such as this, now I'm getting 1120 right now, and to fill up the 3,000 or 32,000 versus 40,000, you need a lot bigger recovery in order to fill that pool up, to get that return, the greater return. That means you have to have almost a 2k recovery per attack to get that much back over a shorter amount of time. So that's where the problem lies with this, with going for greater resources, is you might get greater damage, you might get this, but you also have to have greater return. Without greater return, it's harder to manage your resources. And so that's why when you do light and heavy attacks with your rotation right now, you're seeing these discrepancies with the rotation on test. When you see people showing their parsing and stuff, they're like, oh, you can't maintain without throwing heavy attacks in. No, you could maintain if you went for greater recovery in those size of pools. But you're giving your character too much of a pool to work with, and too little recovery. So you're not getting much back from your return from your heavy attacks as you could by doing this. Now you're going to get more back from your heavy attacks, you're going to get more back from your return, and you're going to be able to manage that pool at a greater rate. Oh, but you're going to lose damage. No, you're not, because you're compensating. You're compensating by taking away weapon damage, giving you recovery, which really doesn't change because your recovery is going to make up that difference. Having two things of recovery on your jewelry, one weapon damage, and the rest, you know, you have, say, 20k health and like whatever you have in stamina, and let's say your stamina is sitting at almost 40k as a magic, even as a stam sork. I mean, I've done a stam sork build and tested it, and with a 40k stamina, I had to dump even more into my character's recovery in order to get a decent return from heavy attacks. Otherwise, it was like moving like a hair. It was like ping, 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 because you have so much more. So it's better to go with a smaller pool and greater weapon damage, so that way you can manage it better. Or go with a greater pool and smaller weapon damage and greater recovery to manage it better. It manages out your damage no matter what. It equals out your damage. So your damage is going to be equaled out regardless, because stamina and weapon damage both increase your damage. So the more you put stamina into your character, the more damage you're going to do. The less stamina you have, or the less weapon damage you have, it doesn't mean that your character is going to do less damage. They're just going to have a greater resource pool to manage their abilities, to use that many more abilities than somebody else, but they need the recovery in order to get it back. And like I said, guys, that does conclude the end of this video. I didn't want to go too far, but I went far enough. So that's how this game is working right now, and it has always worked. Nobody has really gone into crunching the game, not just crunching numbers. You really have to crunch the game. And regardless of what many say, you do not need a 40k stamina or 40k magicka to run a trial. You just need 2032, and you just need good resistances and good survivability. And as long as your character's in that range and they're wearing gold quality gear, trials will be no problem. It's just a matter of managing your resources and how you decide to do it. And like I said, that concludes the end of this video. I do want to thank you all for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, we greatly appreciate if you hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, I try to post videos on a weekly basis. Right now I'm trying to do several this week, but it's taking me a little bit longer to get this video done today than I expected, so I do apologize. But hit that subscribe button, also greatly appreciated. If you guys give me a few more days, I have some other tests I'm working on for some other stuff, and I'll bring that forward before we get the next patch, which is coming Monday when we get the actual early release of Morrowind. And then, of course, I'm pretty sure we're going to have patches until launch on the 6th. So I'm not going to bring any builds for it. I'm just going to be talking about content in the game and different things about the game and showing you guys this different stuff so you guys can see for yourselves how things work and then come up with your own decisions on how you want to play the game and put together your characters. So thanks for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. I'll see you all later. Bye.